Our next breakfast item are piperades. Piperades are a traditional dish of Le Pays Basque, which is the country that sits between Spain and France. I'm sure you may have heard of it with all the separatist problems that they've had over there for the last few years. But when I spent some time in France in my early cooking days, I fell in love with the way that they made their piperades. I already told you how much I love breakfast. And piperade is a very simple dish. They use a jambon de Béarn and lots of peppers and tomatoes and fresh basil and thyme, literally in scrambled eggs. And the one that I fell in love with was almost a quiche mix consistency with all the ingredients cooked into a rarebit dish and then thrown into the oven. Years after my first trip to France, in about the early 80s, I was fortunate enough to help open a hotel in Barbados called Glitter Bay. And I actually named the restaurant Piperade because I wanted it to be known for breakfasts and lunches and light, eggy style dishes. But it kind of blew up in my face because, of course, the local West Indian accent couldn't say Piperade and had no idea of the French intonation. So the restaurant quickly became known as the Pie Parade and didn't have quite the same sexy ringtone to it. Anyway, so let me get to a few piperades. I'm going to demo 3 different ones. These work very, very, very well if you are they work as stations, but they really work as dishes that can be transported in a Cambro, in an Alto-Shaam, or if you are fortunate enough to have portable convection ovens, they're fantastic. You can roll into people's offices and you can blast them through. They cook very quickly. You can have all your mise en place ready to go, throw them into your dishes, bang them into the oven. Between 8 and 10 minutes, you've got this beautiful fluffy dish. I usually use a rarebit dish like this, which is a perfect meal size. You can use smaller ones. We have the smaller, not this one's particularly smaller, but we have smaller ramekins that you can do slightly smaller portions and still get the same effect. Okay, for the first one I've got portobellini mushrooms. They're just a little bit smaller than their big brother, the portobello mushroom. And I'm going to use red onion and potato, and I'm going to just fry this one up and get a little bit of color. I've got some extra virgin olive oil in there. I'm just going to fry this one up. I'm just going to do one of each of these dishes, just to give you a taste and a flavor of how they look. A dice of red onion, portobellini, and I've got some red-skinned potatoes here. I'll just wait for that oil to heat up. In the meantime, the next one we've got is I'm going to use some snow crab. You can use Dungeness crab, you could use blue crab, it really doesn't matter. I use snow crab in this one. Because I'm using tomatoes and I'm using asparagus in it, I don't really want to blow my budget. So the snow crab is very inexpensive. I might use snow crab, I might use Jonah crab. It's, again, half the price of using a Dungeness crab. First of all, before I start putting my fillings in, I'm just going to brush the inside of the dishes with a little olive oil. You can use garlic butter, you can use melted butter. I like the olive oil because it kind of gives it the Basque feel. If you ever get a chance to go to the Basque region, it's a beautiful, beautiful area of the Mediterranean. So some crab there. Go with the asparagus I've already blanched, so it's still very crispy, but it is blanched. Let's take the eye out of the tomato. My oil is hot enough, so we can just saute these up pretty quickly. The mushrooms, the onions, and a few potatoes. And just let that sizzle and cook away. I might just put a little bit more mushroom into that mix. Touch of salt and pepper, and just a pinch of cayenne. I'm going to put salt and pepper and cayenne into the egg mix as well, but I do like, when I'm cooking food, I do like to season it as well. Okay, so back to the crab. We've got the crab, we've got the asparagus. And a chunky tomato. Half a tomato there. And over here I've got some flowering garlic chives. I didn't want to use garlic, and I wanted to have something that was give me a little bit more depth to the flavors. And these, if you don't have garlic chives in your area, then just regular chives will work just as well. The garlic chives, they've really got a very distinct flavor, but regular chives work just the same. There we go. That's the first one. Just getting a little bit of color on there. Cook that out some more. I've got some fresh thyme here. The one that we're going to put the portobellos and the portobellos and the potatoes, I'm just going to break up some fresh thyme, just a little bit. Get that floral thyme flowing through the eggs. I love fresh thyme and eggs. It really makes me feel like I'm back in Le Lavandou, sipping pastis and big cups of espresso. Okay, they're almost there. While that's just finishing, I've got a little bit of red pepper and yellow pepper. I'm going to chop this up, saute this up for the third piperade. The third one is pretty close to how a traditional piperade would be. It's peppers, and I'm going to use some sun-dried tomatoes and some prosciutto. The prosciutto will be instead of the jambon de Bayonne. It's a very, very, very similar product. When it's cooked with ingredients like this, you would barely notice the difference. And some fresh basil will go into it. Alright, so we've got a quick chiffonade of basil. I've got some peppers and the sun-dried tomatoes, and these I'm going to cook a little. I want to get a little bit of color on these. I want to release those natural sugars and really start to get a little bit of color on the peppers and really bring those flavors out. So when they cook in the oven with the eggs, you'll just have that perfume of peppers and the basil and the sun-dried tomatoes, and it'll be just a burst of flavor. I'm going to sprinkle some of the prosciutto that I've already cut into a julienne in the bottom, and then a little basil, chiffonade of basil. And then the peppers and the sun-dried. That's nice, that smells great. and a little bit more basil, topped off with prosciutto. Okay, and the egg mix. Because I'm just doing the 3, I'm going to do 6 eggs. A little bit of pepper and some seasoning salt and a little cayenne. About a half a cup of milk. You can use cream, you can use half and half, but I want mine fairly light. There we go. And I'm just going to pour these straight onto the top. Excellent. Slide them onto a baking sheet. And these will go into the oven. They'll take around 12 minutes in a convection oven at about 375. There we go. So, here's the red skin potato with the red onion and the portobellini mushroom. This one here is the snow crab with the asparagus and tomato. And over here is the prosciutto with the basil and the sun-dried tomato and the red pepper.